On this day, 150 years ago, Horatio Nelson, Britain's greatest admiral, died at the moment of his greatest triumph. From the deck of the Victory, he smashed Napoleon's dream of conquering Europe. On that deck, he died. His statue looks down on a land that honors him, not merely as the winner of a battle, but as the creator of a navy which still lives, fights, and wins by his tradition. The Duke of Edinburgh, himself a sailor tried in battle, leads the nation's homage at Nelson's monument. A quarter of a mile away in Carlton Gardens, tribute is paid today to another fighting sailor, a sub-lieutenant of the Battle of Jutland who became King George VI of England. The Queen Mother and Princess Margaret are present for the unveiling of his statue, which is to be performed by his daughter and successor, Queen Elizabeth II. It was Sir Winston Churchill who proposed 3 years ago that a national memorial to King George VI be established. First of all, he said, we must raise a statue in London to carry to the living generation and to those who come after us a physical presence of the King. This is our first task. Today, that task is accomplished. The Queen reveals the statue of her father, a man who, in her own words, expected to support the throne rather than to fill it. But the unsparing devotion which he gave to his duties as Duke of York enabled him to assume with resolution the burden of sovereignty.
Today is Trafalgar Day, and it is fitting that this ceremony should take place on the anniversary of one of the great events in our history as a seafaring nation. Throughout his life, my father had a deep concern for the welfare of the services, both in peace and war. He saw active service in the Royal Navy. He was the first of his family to enter the Royal Air Force. By his visits to his forces in the field, in Africa and Europe, he brought encouragement to those who had long been parted from their homes and families. He was the living symbol of our steadfastness. He never wavered in his faith that with God's help, the cause of freedom would prevail.
Thus, on Nelson's Day, we honor a sailor king who, like his father, upheld the Nelson tradition. Rarely, if ever, has Trafalgar Day been so splendidly celebrated. And it ends as splendidly as it began, when the Queen and the Duke dine with the Lords Commissioners of the Admiralty in the painted hall of the Royal Naval College at Greenwich. On either side of the Queen are the First Lord of the Admiralty, Mr. J.P.L. Thomas, and Admiral Lord Louis Mountbatten, the First Sea Lord. Sir Anthony Eden is also present to hear Her Majesty address the men who command her Navy.
If Nelson could be with us tonight, he would find much to surprise him, for he would hear from you of a navy vastly different to that in which he served. But although he would learn of material differences, which could not well be greater, I believe that he would recognize and applaud something very familiar. For the spirit which he communicated to those he led is still alive today. It is because the inspiration of Nelson is still a potent and living force, and because of his humanity, that we do him honor tonight.